Final Fantasy VII Remake endured a long, complicated development. Final Fantasy VII Remake endured a long, complicated development.
Guys, relax, take a breath. Trust me, you'll be alright. Hello and welcome back to another video. We are going to be talking about an article that IGN published on their website. And as we already know, IGN is not the best as of late. I think their journalism has just really dipped in quality since some of the main guys left, like Greg Miller was one of the great ones. I really liked Colin Moriarty. He was great as well. But this journalist is actually from the UK. His name is Matt Purslow. He brings up a lot of points. He brings up some things that to a degree I understand, but I want to talk about the stuff that he brings up that I think is either one, just not really a good question, and another thing is I just feel like some of this stuff is almost common sense. So I want to cover the main things that he talked about that I think are problematic, especially when we're talking about a journalist that does it for a living and gets paid for it and does it full time, and that's just what he does. I expect more, and I think IGN has really, especially when it comes to Japanese games, dropped the ball. The title of the article is Final Fantasy VII Remake needs to better communicate the big plan. Now, I'm not going to read through this entire thing. I'm just going to take out the points that I think are major points that I can talk on. Start with the first one. No projected cadence for game releases, no suggested length of the series, no information on how the episodes will link, and no indication as to how the development team will deal with the console generation leap due to happen shortly after the first game launches. So why don't we just go off and hit that first point, or that last point? How are they going to deal with the generation leap? The answer to this is pretty simple, right? We already know for a fact that PlayStation 5 will be backwards compatible with PlayStation 4. So that answers your question. It's really not that difficult. And if you're doing games journalism, I feel like to a degree you should know this already. You should already know that PS5 is backwards compatible. They did come out publicly and already say this. So that point has no value. Like, you're saying that you're concerned about the generation leap, but the answer is already given to us. There is no concern because of backwards compatibility. And this goes for any game coming out on a PS4 that's going to have a sequel on a 5. It doesn't matter because they're backwards compatible. These other points, the problem is they can't just tell you, hey, this is the plan we have. We want to release the next one in 2 years. We want to release the one after that in 3 years, or we're doing such and such parts. That's just not how it works, especially with this project. It seems as though that they are kind of playing it by ear. Like they're making the first part where they said, okay, we see Midgar as its own story, which I look at it from a different perspective as a lot of other people. I look at it as Midgar, technically speaking, is much, much, much larger than any of the other places that we visit in Final Fantasy VII. So why wouldn't it get its own game? Why wouldn't you think that there's more content they can put in that? It's the biggest place. It's the largest location in the entire game. And no, I'm not talking about a mountain. No, I'm not talking about a crater. I'm talking about in terms of towns or cities, that is the biggest place. Everywhere else is tiny. So yes, it's going to have its own game. Yes, it's going to have a lot more to show this time around. In terms of how the episodes will link, I think they're going for almost like a standalone feel, right, of a game. So we're going to get the Midgar experience, and that will feel like a complete game. But of course, kind of like when we have sequels, right? So we can use Mass Effect as an example. We can use Final Fantasy 13 as an example. Of course, this is planned before creating the game that they want to make sequels of it. So with that said, I think the expectation that they have to know an answer, they have to give us this and that, is ridiculous. You can't expect them to know all these answers, and you can't expect them to give you an answer, because believe me, if they give us an answer and God forbid they change, everyone will lose their shit. There's no way they can win in this situation. So it makes sense that they're just like, you know what? Hold up. We don't know yet. That's fair. That's completely fair. And it's not like they're saying, we're going to give you this game, but we don't know if we're going to add DLC or whatever it may be. No, they're saying that we don't know how many parts exactly there will be. And it's true, because if there is, for example, if there's 3 parts, they don't know how much content. Like, what if they come across a point in the second part where they're like, you know what, we can further dive deeper into this part of the game and elaborate on some of the story elements. If that happens, they want to do that. And if that means that they got to make 4 parts, for example, that's just how it's got to be. So that's my point when it comes to that. So I'm going to go on to the second point. He goes on to say, to make matters worse for fans, Final Fantasy VII Remake endured a long, complicated development. It was announced at E3 2015. meaning by the release of Part 1. It will have been in development for at least 5 years. Chances are it's been in some kind of planning phase much longer than that. In 2005, a technical demo shown at E3 featured Final Fantasy VII's opening, rendered in PlayStation 3 grade graphics. The demo may not have been an announcement of Final Fantasy VII Remake, but it certainly showed that a modern version of the world of Mako, Shinra, and Midgar was on the development team's mind. And he goes on to say it feels like Remake has been in development for forever. So I think this is another one of those things where I'm like, man, what are you thinking when you're writing this? You can't take a tech demo and think that, oh, that must mean that they are working on it. No, that's not how it is. We got an FF8 tech demo for the PS2. Does that mean that that's what they were working on? Hell no. And we know that to be fact. So no, just because they showed us a tech demo of the FF7, what you believe to be a remake on a PS3 does not mean that that's what it is. So I think it's ridiculous. That's presumptuous. That's not the way to go. And that's, as a professional journalist, he shouldn't be saying that. So he's basically trying to ding him on something that doesn't exist, which is ridiculous. You can't do that. Like, you can't say, well, this is why I'm concerned. They showed us a tech demo back on a PS3. That's ridiculous. That's absurd that he even went on to argue that, kind of like adding that as a point, because it's not a point at all. And in terms of the remake being in development for a long time, it hasn't really been in development for an absurdly long time. Like 5 years isn't that long of a time for game development of this scale. We're talking like Red Dead Redemption was in development for 5 years at least. Grand Theft Auto 5 years at least. Like, these top tier AAA games, they take 5+ years to make. Yes, it did run into troubles. That's absolutely 100% true that they did have the problem with CyberConnect 2. But you know, even that was all like rumor in terms of really making it seem bigger than it was. It wasn't a fact that they had some huge fallout with CyberConnect 2. It could have just been that they really wanted to do a level of work that only they could accomplish in their studios, which is completely respectable. If they lost time on that, that happens. That's a part of development, right? Sometimes you run into bumps in the road, but that doesn't mean that, oh, all of a sudden you've been in development hell or whatever this guy wants to call it. It has not been in development for forever. What has been happening is people have been talking about this game for a long time and have been wanting it for a long time. So maybe that is why he goes on to feel like it's been in development forever. So he goes on to his next point, which is the last point I want to talk about in terms of this article. How will it deal with carrying over your progression from one game to the next, especially if you've made the jump to the next generation? This really isn't that complicated, guys. I could be wrong. And this is speculation, 100%. But when I look at it from a logical perspective, how are they going to handle this? What are they going to do to ensure that, first of all, number one, your progress carries over? And the other thing is, what if you didn't play the first one, you're like, I just want to start from the second game, for example? Or what if you go and play the second one on a different platform? What happens? It's a pretty simple answer, guys. It's not that complicated. The way I see it being done is, number one, let's say FF7 Remake Part 1, you play it, you grind it out, you hit level 99, whatever, you get all these items. I can see it as you can transfer your file over to the next game. You can bring your items with you. Your level will scale to a point where it doesn't make the game absurdly easy. That would be the most logical thing to do. And if you were going to the second part, they would just start you off with a base level that makes sense where you are, and probably give you equipment that suits what you need for the start of the game. That way, giving the players who played the first one the advantage, well, not the advantage, kind of like a gift, like, hey, you can bring all your stuff over. Now, there's one other way they could do this, and that is pretty much just saying, you know what, no, we're gonna scrap everything. Part 2, you start off with a low level that's gonna scale in regards to HP and all of that. We're gonna start you off with base equipment, right? And we're gonna continue the game. That's that simple. It's really, like I said, it's not that complicated. People are acting like it's rocket science. It's really not. It's so simple to do this. Honestly, they'll probably execute it way better than I said. This is pure speculation and what I think might work, but they could already have an idea of how they want to do this. They're just not publicly coming out with it. So I want to go over one more thing, and he really went off on this about, oh, we don't know how long it's going to take for the next one to come out, this and that. I want to go back to the development time of Final Fantasy 13. Yes, I know FF13 was never planned to be a series. No, it was never planned to be a trilogy. That was not the case. They made 13 thinking it was going to be a standalone game, but we can still use this as an example. So Final Fantasy 13, development time, February 2004 to December 2009. Final Fantasy 13-2, March 2010 to December 2011. Final Fantasy 13-3, May 2012 to November 2013. These are not long development times at all. I understand with Final Fantasy 7, they're going to have to make new assets because we don't go back to Midgard, technically speaking, until way later in the game. But these villages, like I said, these villages are much smaller than we've ever seen in the size of Midgard. Midgard is way bigger. We just never had the opportunity to explore it all. So what I'm saying is, they're really not going to take that long. You guys, anybody freaking out about this? Guys, relax, take a breath. Trust me, you'll be all right. There's nothing crazy about this. They are going to take good care of this game, guys. This is their most prized game that they've ever made. They're not going to take chances and they're not going to fuck things up. They're going to do this right. I believe they will, 100%. I think that they're going to do this the right way. And they have a great development team. I fully believe in everything they're doing. And I don't think you guys need to worry either, to be honest. So that's my video. I just really wanted to go over what IGN was saying because honestly, sometimes, man, they say some stuff that just blows my mind. Like, I can't believe that people believe this shit. That's my 2 cents on the matter. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed the video, as always, subscribe, like, comment, let me know what you think in the comments. Am I crazy? Do they know what they're talking about? Or just let me know what your personal opinions are on the whole matter. Thank you guys for watching. I will talk to you on the next one. Take care.